Welcome viewers and enthusiasts to a flight I've been waiting quite a while to do. In this three-part video series, we'll be taking the Aerosoft CRJ 700 from Las Vegas to San Diego on the VATSIM network. I've been away from the computer for 6 months and I've recently upgraded to the RTX 3080 and Ryzen 5900X, so I've got to say my excitement is quite high to get back into making YouTube videos for the channel. So folks, go ahead, buckle up, and we welcome you aboard for the ride. Alright, welcome YouTubers to the first part. This is going to be a basic flight planning summary and aircraft setup for departure. So again, I'm going to be flying on VATSIM. It's very easy to get started on VATSIM if you're not already a member. If this is something that interests you, you're just going to come here, click Join VATSIM. They got some neat tools. You can see who's online by clicking the Who's Online, see who is on VATSIM for your flight. It's pretty late right now, so it's probably not going to be as busy, but weekends are usually your best time. There's also SimAware, which is a live map of who's flying. Obviously Europe's pretty quiet right now because it's late in the central time hours, but just shows you where aircraft are. So if you want to see traffic, if you want to be part of a conga line from point A to point B, or you just want to avoid some of the heavier stuff, whatever your needs are, you can always hop online and see who's flying where, as well as check out where air traffic control is currently staffing airports. So we're going to do a quick flight from Las Vegas to San Diego. And of course, Simbrief is what I use. Essentially functions as the airline dispatch, but I believe they have most aircraft on here. So I think they might even have, they even have Cessnas on here. So you can pretty much file anything on here. We're going to be Envoy 688. So ENY is the Envoy call sign, 688, and then we're going to go from Las Vegas to San Diego, and then it pretty much pre-fills everything out for you. You just need to fill out the aircraft type, which we're going to be the CRJ 700 today, flying the Aerosoft CRJ 7. Some for defaults, so the OFP layout, I like whatever, I'm assuming that's Southwest Airlines, the way that their plans are laid out, at least in Simbrief. Units count pounds or kilogram if you're European, and then I leave these on auto and just I haven't changed any of this stuff. There's also custom climb profiles which depend on your needs. I generally leave these as they are filled out, and then some basic information. It'll give you your routing. So normally I've flown Las Vegas to San Diego, and it's almost always the Raider 1 level transition and Lucky 1 arrival. But there's other routes that you can select. Of course, if you don't have Navigraph, so this is based on Navigraph. If you don't have Navigraph, then you're going to have outdated AirAx. It's not a problem if you're flying offline, but if you're trying to fly on VATSIM, it is a problem. Then you're just going to generate the OFP. Yes, now I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. But when you generate it, if you have Simbrief, I'll just generate it. Doesn't matter. Once I've generated the package, it's going to give you a summary of some of your important stuff. So you can write this information down, like the block fuel, zero fuel weight. Those are usually some important values, and you'll see why. Plus the actual flight plan itself and the dispatch package. And then you can, of course, download it. I usually download a copy, put it on my tablet, which I will have on my side. And there's our flight route, waypoints. There's two options. You can download the add-on. You download the add-on focus. So these are crafted routes, basically. These are files that for example, the Aerosoft CRJ, it's going to read this file in the FMS. That way, instead of typing everything up from scratch, I can actually just load it in, typing in the KLAS, KSAN, and it'll load all the values in the FMS. Alternatively, you can get the Simbrief downloader app right here. There's the ad for it. It'll do it automatically for you. And then, of course, I usually download the vPilot flight plan option, so that I can load my IFR flight plan into vPilot with a couple clicks of a button. This is a subscription service that I pay for as a real-world pilot for VFR and soon IFR flight. And this is also going to show our route. So we're departing Las Vegas, and then we'll fly our RNAV departure onto the level transition, which is also the entry into our arrival route, which is going to be just a southwest descent, with a right-hand turn onto a final extent, 15-mile final for runway 27. It's going to be pretty good weather, so we're not expecting to utilize the ILS today. And pretty short flight, about an hour, 20 minutes. And in fact, our ground time, probably closer to 2 hours. But looking forward to it. Not a lot of traffic out there, but still bound probably to run into a couple of flights. Of course, I'll also be using FlightEvents, which takes the flight sim aircraft GPS position and actually overlays it on these charts, much like flying with ADS-B or ForeFlight Sentry would do in real life. So I can't really recommend this for non-pilots, but if you are a pilot and you have a ForeFlight subscription, look up FlightEvents. You can connect Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 to it, and it'll give you GPS overlaid data, which you'll see when we throughout the flight. Similar apps, there are alternatives to this you can use for IFR Flight. Navigraph Ultra gives you both charts like this, as well as AirAct data like I mentioned earlier, and actually gives you GPS overlay capability as well. The only downside to Navigraph as it is right now is there is no VFR chart. However, you can get VFR charts by Googling VFR Maps or SkyVector, both of which are free. However, we're not going to be using VFR chart today because we're flying IFR. Now, for setting up in the sim, we're going to start in the I believe American parks their aircraft here, but I'm not 100% sure. That's where we're going to start up today with the CRJ 700. So, without further ado, I will see you on the ramp in Flight Sim 2020. First things first, let's go ahead and set this thing up. Flying this thing is not that hard. I've done a couple flights with it now, and flying jets is not actually all that difficult. It's a lot harder in real life, obviously. So right now we're connected to APU power. We've got the APU running, and we also have ground power available. Go ahead and set this to on, because I believe the APU should be supplying DC power. Generators are all on auto. Basically, anytime you're running through the overhead panel, so right now we're configuring it. Obviously, the passengers are, may or may not be coming on the aircraft. So I'm just going to run through from top to bottom, left to right. So we're going to start with the electrical power, make our way down to hydraulic and lights, and then we're just going to go from top to bottom, left to right. So this is our electrical panel. Everything's set as it needs to be. All of our generators should be on auto. Okay, and then a nav light. So electric power is being supplied to the aircraft, so we need to have the nav light on. We'll put the beacon light as we get ready to taxi. Strobe is only for takeoff. You only put strobe on once you're on the active and flying. Logo is usually something at night used for air traffic control personnel in the tower to see you. And then the wing inspection, you turn that on when you're doing your external inspection of the aircraft. These should be in off because we're not using them right now. All these should be extinguished and off. Bleed air should be set to normal. Bleed valves auto. ISOL closed. Bleed source both engines. This is showing that our APU is running and supplying power. This is our ignition panel for engine startup. These should be off for the time being, but we'll be changing that in a little bit. Cabin pressure altitude, we'll set that in just a moment. Actually, we can go ahead and set that now. So cabin pressure altitude should be set to our current elevation, which, let me pull up my handy-dandy ForeFlight app. And no, 2,181. So that's going to be, see if it's automatically set in our sim. Nope, set to 0. So we need to set this. This is our cabin pressurization tool. Well, we got a while to go. We got to get it to 2,000. Okay, so that's set. Man alt. This should be flush and guarded. Pressure should be, anyway, I think this should be full decrease. Full decrease. Air conditioning is should be on. Okay, so air conditioning on. Recirc fan. Turn that to on. Okay, hot cold. I don't think you can really change that. I think that's for manual. And it's pretty hot out. It's 40 degrees Celsius. So we're gonna put the air conditioning way the hell on because it's 40 freaking degrees Celsius outside. These should all be off at the moment. We can put this to low. Windshield heat low. Probe heat. Turn that on once we get the engines going. And we don't need any light, but I'll go ahead and get the overhead panel on because we are going to lose light as we fly. Okay, those are on, and emergency lights are auto. Okay, now moving down to our radio panel. IRS is already set up. So this is our inertial reference system, basically our GPS system. It's how we know where we are in time and space. Position initialization has not been done yet, so we'll go ahead and set that up. And I'm running through this through memory, but we'll always back check it with checklists. So it's okay to do it through memory, but you always want to check what you're doing afterwards through checklists. We are at KLAS. That is our airport. Now we're going to load our flight plan. Now I get my flight plan from Simbrief, so we're going to pull it in. It's just the way that it exports it is you just type it in like this, put it in route, hit execute, and it loads it all in. So this is our origin airport, the distance to our destination. That's the route name, company route essentially. Origin runway, it's giving us 08 left. Not sure that we're going to use 08 left. I might change that. Radar 1 is the departure. And route's loaded, ready to go. We are Envoy 688 today. We are flying on VATSIM. However, there is not currently anybody online in any of the airports that I'm going to. We are currently without air traffic control services, so we'll be on Unicom, but there are aircraft in the area. So this will be a video to see if you've ever wondered how VATSIM works when there's nobody online. This is kind of how you do it. Okay, so runway, we're going to use, I think they're landing west right now, so we're going to use 26 right. Now we just want to make sure that everything's set as it is. So initial climb heading is going to be 259 degrees. That's essentially 26 right's actual heading. And then I think this is a radar vectors departure, but we'll go over that pretty soon. Right now we just want to make sure that our route is properly loaded in, getting rid of all these discontinuities, and this is pretty common. So we're going to take level and put it right here where level is and hit execute. Alright, so we've gotten rid of that discontinuity. That's basically, level is the end of our departure and actually the beginning of our arrival route. So, and basically this approach actually flies us pretty much right into San Diego. So, alright, so what we're going to do to verify that our flight plan is properly installed is to make sure our flight plan is properly installed, we're going to step through our flight plan. This says not allowed, but it actually runs through. I'm not sure why it says not allowed. There's a proper way to do it, and I'm clearly not doing it, but we're just going to do this. Okay, Doyle, Zelma, Jotnu, level, and then it goes here. It should just be a simple descent into runway 27. And there it is. So we have a continuous start to finish flight plan that takes us all the way from one runway to the other. Since there is no air traffic controller online, we're pretty much going to be handling ourselves on the ground here. All right, so we set that up. Yep, let's bring up our checklist. So the APU is already running, which means that we're burning through some fuel right now. All right, cockpit preparation, battery master on, fire detection test, already did that. APU start, already running. APU power and fuel, hydraulic 3 alpha. So that's 3 alpha. Need to get the panel up here. Oops, wrong one. 3 alpha is right here. That needs to be set to on. Okay, IRS is set up. Position initialization, we did that. Nav light is on. FMS status checked. Flight plan set up. FMS perf init. Okay, so that's the thing we have not done yet, so we're going to go to perf init. Actually, instead of doing it here, we're going to do it in the performance page of our EFB little tablet. And for this, I'm going to pull up my Simbrief thing, and I'm going to pull some values up from it. So what we're going to be looking for is just the zero fuel weight. So looking at our Simbrief flight plan, we're just going to pull up the zero fuel weight, and the fuel. So for zero fuel weight, we're going to delete this. Our zero fuel weight, that's the weight of the aircraft with all fuel taken off, is 60,272 pounds. Okay, so block fuel is entered, and I'm going to copy this over. Copy perf init data to FMS. You can see that our zero fuel weight is there, and our block fuel is already set. Of course, we're burning through fuel right now because I've got the APU running. Our cruise altitude today is going to be flight level 340. This is all pulled from a flight planning resource called Simbrief. There's plenty of tutorials on how to use that. You can use that, I believe, for basic, even for the default aircraft. Our target speed and climb is going to be 290 knots and Mach 7.4. Transition altitude is standard in the United States, 18,000. And then, of course, our only restriction here, 250 knots below 10,000 feet. And then our target cruise, Mach 7.4, and then our target descent to Mach 7.4, and then below whatever altitude is 290 knots. With all that data taken into account, so we're going to use a flaps of 8 today. The runway condition is dry, and then I'm going to set all these speeds in the FMS. So our initial climb, I believe, is going to be V2 plus 10, 150 knots. So I'll set that's already set in the speed bug is already set to 150 knots, so that's good. Okay, back onto the checklist. So performance initialization, weight, ETD are set. FMS VNAV setup set. FMS display checked. FMS radio set up. Don't have to worry about radio too much. We will set it up to Unicom, and I'm going to search that in just a moment. Originating check is the first flight of the day. You just do some extra set. Your most comprehensive your most comprehensive pre-flight is always going to be the first flight of the day, because you want to make sure that that thing is not going to crash when you get off the ground. That's just not what we want. All right, so let's go ahead and get this thing configured for startup. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the aircraft page. Aircraft page, disconnect our ground power cart. I'm going to go ahead and close the cargo. And cabin crew says that we're almost done loading, so we're going to go ahead and, oh no, what's happening? Go ahead and finish this up. Alright, so you can hear the APU running both inside and out. Okay, so we're nearly ready for pushback and start. I'm going to run through our overhead panel once more, make sure that we're ready to go ahead and get going. We'll turn the beacon on when it's time to move. So the beacon light we turn on to let them know the aircraft is getting ready for startup and pushback. So hydraulic systems are going to come on now. And then that should be it. Let's check the radio panel. Sorry, not that panel, the radio panel. I'm going to go ahead and turn the lights on our radio panel so that, and then the floodlights will turn on just a little bit. It is going to get dark probably towards the end of our flight. I don't have to worry about this, but I do want to set us up on Unicom. So one moment as I look up the Unicom frequency. Okay, so 122.8 is VATSIM's Unicom frequency. It sort of functions as CTAF does in real life, and the whole purpose of using it is to communicate with pilots when there's no air traffic control. Okay, so 122.8 dialed in on the frequency. Area traffic, Air Canada 2005. And there you can hear a guy making. There you hear him on Unicom announcing his intentions. So it's what we use whenever we are in uncontrolled airspace, because air traffic control is not online. So I've configured that. We don't have to have that anymore. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this aircraft ready for pushback. So APU is running. Let's go ahead and close that door and get the passenger door closed.
Heavy runway 26 left to 5 DMA.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the captain and crew, welcome aboard this flight. We hope you enjoy flying with us.
Okay, I'm going to leave that minimized because we're going to use pushback feature in just a moment. And we're going to go ahead and turn our beacon light on. Beacon light is on. So the beacon light comes on so that we can let everybody know that you can see the beacon light flashing on the top. I believe it flashes on the bottom as well. So we're just letting everybody know that this aircraft is getting ready to get pushback and startup instructions. Pre-startup, IFR clearance, we're going to go ahead and say that's received. Nav source is set to FMS. Courses are set. Heading is aligned with the runway. Is it? It's actually not. It is runway 26, so 258 I think is our initial heading. 259 degrees, and then heading FMS, verify our altitude restriction. So I need to pull up our departure plate and see what our altitude restriction is on departure. Okay, Rudy, I think we crossed Rudy at or above 4,000. And we crossed cells at or below 8,000. So let's go ahead and verify those restrictions. Okay, Rudy at or above 4,000, cells below 8,000. Pre-startup checklist, heading FMS set, AFB set, V-speed. Speeds are set, V-speeds verified. So we are ready for pushback and startup. Pushback and startup. Okay, windows and doors locked and secure. Let's go ahead and verify that really quick with the doors panel. Doors, all green, secured. Cockpit door locked. Parking brake is on. Beacon is on. Left and right fuel boost. All right, boost pumps are on. Valve auto. Hydraulics on and auto. ECAM. Let's check our electrics panel. Want to verify 40 psi minimum on the APU. We got 45 on our valves there, so we're going to go back to status page. And doors we just verified are closed. Parking brake is on. Receiver pushback clearance. Pushback clearance is given by the ramp controllers, so it's not actually HTC as far as I understand it. Ramp controllers are different. So ramp controllers control the ramp area, which is not controlled by air traffic control. So I'm going to role play as the ramp controller. We're clear for a pushback, and Air Canada. So there's the first jet, I think, that came into the area. Oh, you can see an aircraft way out in the distance there taxiing on the ground. So there are a handful of aircraft, and I mean a good handful of aircraft, that are currently taxiing to flying into flying into Las Vegas, but just no air traffic control. Okay, still no air traffic control. I'm just verifying on the V-pilot panel, which you probably can't see. Okay, so our parking brake is set. We're ready for pushback. I just want to see which way we want to turn the tail to make our taxi the easiest. So if we pull up our airport diagram. So 26 right is off and 26 right is behind us. Let me go ahead and pull up my tablet so you guys can see what I'm talking about. 3, 2, 1. All right, so here's where we are. We are this blue dot here. We're going to push back and face our tail to the left, nose to the right, so that we can taxi down here, make a left-hand turn, taxi to Bravo 1 on 26 right, and then take off. So that's the strategy here. That's what ground would likely give us. I don't know that that's actually what they're using in real life. Pretty sure based on the flow of traffic. All right, folks, one more verification of our checklist here. So on pushback, as we push back, we're going to start our engine. We're going to start with the right engine. We'll push the start button. Verify that N2 is exceeding 20%. Once N2 is greater than 20%, verify that ITT is less than 120. Engine 2 throttle will release, set to idle. That'll inject fuel into the turbine and I guess make it spin faster. I'm not a turbine expert, never flown a turbine plane, so I don't know. Then we're going to verify oil pressure and temperature rising to verify that the engine is operating as intended. Verify that N1 begins to rise, ITT rises, and N2 stabilizes above 50%. Actually, no, correction. As N2 rises above 50%, that the right auto ignition light kicks off, and then we're going to repeat that process for the left engine start, set our parking brake, and then begin taxi. Okay, let's go ahead and request pushback clearance from the ramp agent. We do have an aircraft taxiing in the area. He's not on our taxiway, so we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to remove our parking brake. Parking brake removed, and we're going to request pushback.